hidden in the clouds, and his unwavering journey to reach it. The king was a man with a restless heart. Unlike most of his subjects, he dreamed of something beyond his kingdom. Every day, he would climb the highest tower in his palace and gaze at a distant mountain on the horizon. Its peak, hidden in clouds, had captivated him since he was a young prince. It wasn't just a mountain to him, it was his dream. He believed there was something incredible waiting for him there, something worth leaving his royal comforts behind for. One evening, the king gathered his ministers and advisors and shared his dream. But instead of encouragement, he was met with disbelief. "Why waste your time chasing a faraway mountain?" they scoffed. "It's better to stay here, rule the kingdom, and live a comfortable life." They thought he was foolish, a king lost in his daydreams. But the king couldn't ignore the call of the mountain. His heart was set on it, and no amount of laughter or doubt could change his mind. The king knew this journey wouldn't be easy. He had little knowledge of what lay ahead, and many doubted his strength, but he had a determined heart. Over the next few days, he gathered the bare essentials: food, water, and a simple walking stick. At dawn one morning, he left his palace and his kingdom behind. The king was finally following his dream, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. He was stepping out toward the unknown. At first, every step felt like an adventure, but as days turned into weeks, the journey grew harder. The king faced hunger, harsh weather, and exhaustion. There were moments when he doubted himself, wondering if he'd ever reach his goal. The mountain seemed so far, and the path was filled with challenges he hadn't expected. Still, every time he thought of giving up, he looked up at the mountain in the distance, reminding himself what he had set out. His goal gave him strength and kept him going, one step at a time. One day, after a particularly tiring stretch, the king met an old man sitting by a shrine. The man greeted him kindly and asked, "Why do you travel this path so far from home?" The king replied, "I am heading to the mountain on the horizon. It has always been my dream to reach it." The old man smiled, saying, "The mountain is indeed beautiful, but remember, the path will test your spirit. You will need more than just strength, you'll need patience and resilience." And these words stayed with the king, strengthening his resolve as he continued on his journey. As the king continued, he passed through villages where he was tempted to stop and settle. In one village, a kind merchant offered him a job, promising a comfortable life. In another, a young woman suggested he could stay and live happily with her. For a moment, the king considered it. The mountain was still so far, and the comforts of village life tempted him. But then he remembered his goal, the mountain that had called to him for so long. He knew he couldn't abandon his dream, even if the path was difficult. After months of walking, the king finally reached the foot of the mountain, but this was just the beginning of his greatest challenge. The mountain was steep, rugged, and unforgiving. Each step was a battle against exhaustion and fear. The climb was treacherous, with narrow ledges and rocky paths, yet the king kept going, his goal in sight. He had come too far to turn back now. After days of climbing, the king finally reached the summit. The view before him was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Endless valleys, rivers, and forests stretched as far as his eyes could see. The beauty was breathtaking. In that moment, the king realized that every hardship, every moment of doubt, had been worth it. He had achieved his goal and was rewarded with a view that few others had seen. The king's journey wasn't over. After spending time reflecting on his achievement, he began the journey back home. When he returned, he was greeted with astonishment and admiration. His subjects, who once doubted him, listened to his story in awe. The king had become an inspiration, a living proof that with a clear goal and determination, even the most impossible dreams can come true. The king's journey to the distant mountain wasn't just about reaching a faraway destination, it was a journey of growth, courage, and the power of perseverance. He showed us that when you set a goal, no matter how distant or impossible it may seem, it gives you strength. It gives you purpose, something to focus on, even when the road gets tough. The king's story teaches us that success isn't about having everything go perfectly. It's about facing setbacks, resisting distractions, and continuing to move forward. Remember, each of us has a mountain to climb. That mountain might be a personal goal, a career dream, or a challenge you've been avoiding. But like the king, if you keep that goal in sight, you'll find the strength to overcome any obstacle. So what is your mountain? What's the one goal that keeps calling to you, no matter what others say? Share it with us in the comments. Let's inspire each other to take that first step and keep climbing until we reach the top. If you enjoyed the story and found it inspiring, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more stories, and remember your mountain is waiting. All you have to do is start the journey. Imagine, centuries ago, in the vast, ancient lands of India, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama was born into a world of luxury and grandeur. But amidst the glittering jewels, the fine silks, and the endless feasts, he felt something was missing. An emptiness that all the wealth in the world could not fill. He was a young man, restless and curious, haunted by questions that no one dared to ask. Who am I? Why do people suffer? And what lies beyond the fleeting pleasures of this life? Today, we follow the path of Siddhartha, who would dare to seek answers under the shade of a legendary tree, the Bodhi tree. As Siddhartha grew, his curiosity became an unquenchable fire. He saw suffering everywhere, aging, sickness, and death. These were things his palace walls had kept hidden, but now they invaded his mind, whispering secrets about the world he did not yet understand. It was one fateful night that he made a decision that would change the world forever. In the silence of midnight, he left the palace, shedding his royal robes, leaving behind his family and his kingdom. Siddhartha stepped into the darkness, driven by a relentless desire to find the truth about life itself. His journey had begun. Siddhartha sought the wise sages of the land, masters who lived in solitude, denying themselves every pleasure, every comfort. Under their guidance, he pushed his body and mind to the brink, fasting until he was but skin and bone, meditating until his thoughts were lost in silence. Yet, as the years passed, he began to wonder, why was the truth still hidden? He felt weaker, not wiser. Had he been searching in the wrong places? This life of suffering seemed to only trap him further in a cage of his own making. One day, as he sat, starving and weakened by endless fasting, a young village girl approached, offering him a bowl of rice. For a moment he hesitated, but something within urged him to accept. As he ate, he felt strength returning, a calm he had not known in years. Suddenly it was clear. The answer was not in extremes, not in pleasure nor in suffering. There was another way, a way of balance. This was the middle path, a path he would soon follow, toward the heart of truth. At last, Siddhartha arrived at a magnificent fig tree. Its branches stretched wide, ancient and wise. Here, he thought, this will be my place of rest, or my place of revelation. With a calm mind and unwavering heart, he made a vow he would sit beneath this Bodhi tree and not rise until he had unlocked the mysteries of existence. As he closed his eyes, the world around him began to fade. But his journey was far from over, for now, the true challenges would begin. As night fell, a dark presence stirred. Mara, the ancient demon of desire and distraction, said Siddhartha's resolve. Furious, Mara unleashed an army of terrifying creatures, their eyes burning with malice, their forms twisting and monstrous. They circled Siddhartha, filling the air with sounds of thunder and screams. Yet Siddhartha sat still, unflinching. He knew the truth. Fear was only an illusion. The storm raged around him, but he remained as calm as the roots of the Bodhi tree, grounded and unbreakable. Mara's creatures grew more violent, their claws lashing at the air, their fans dripping with darkness, but Siddhartha remained untouched, unmoved. With each breath, he watched his fear as if it were a stranger. He observed it, let it rise, and let it pass. Never reacting, as he sat, fearless, Mara's illusions began to dissolve, like mist at dawn. Siddhartha had discovered a hidden power. By simply observing his fear, he could make it vanish. Seeing that fear had failed, Mara shifted his tactics. His daughters, beautiful and enchanting, appeared before Siddhartha, their voices soft, their movements graceful. They whispered promises of pleasure, of love, of comfort. Surely, he could give up his quest for a life of ease. But Siddhartha looked within, untempted. He knew that these desires were chains leading away from freedom. He closed his eyes, and like petals in the wind, the temptations drifted away, leaving him in deep serenity. Mara's voice crept into Siddhartha's mind, soft and sinister. Who are you to seek enlightenment? Are you worthy? The questions hung in the air, twisting like shadows. But Siddhartha knew this was another distraction. Self-doubt, he realized, was Mara's greatest weapon. Instead of engaging, he simply acknowledged the doubt, and like a fog lifting, it dissolved. Siddhartha understood now. Every doubt, every fear was just another hurdle on his path to awakening. In a final act of defiance, Mara demanded proof that Siddhartha was worthy of enlightenment. He asked, "Who will testify for you?" Without a word, Siddhartha reached down and touched the earth. In that silent moment, the ground itself responded. Trembling in recognition of his dedication, the earth bore witness to his journey, his struggles, his resolve. Mara had nothing left. He faded away, defeated, leaving Siddhartha in stillness, in profound peace. Imagine losing something priceless, something so valuable you'd do anything to find it. But as you search, you begin to wonder, did someone you trust take it? This is the story of a lost jewel, a hasty accusation, and a lesson that could change how you view trust and judgment forever. Once upon a time, in a magnificent kingdom, lived a young princess who cherished one special possession, a radiant jewel, the crown jewel of her collection. This jewel was a gift from her mother, her most treasured keepsake, a symbol of love and legacy. Every day, she wore it with pride, but one morning, disaster struck. She opened her jewelry box and gasped. The jewel was gone. Frantically, she searched her chambers, under the bed, behind the curtains, every nook and cranny, but the jewel was nowhere to be found. How could something so precious just vanish? Consumed by worry, she began to suspect the unthinkable. Desperation clouded her thoughts. Only one person had been near the jewel that morning, Mira, her loyal servant, who had worked for her since childhood. In a moment of weakness, the princess's mind spiraled toward suspicion. Could it be that Mira had taken the jewel? The idea unsettled her, yet her frustration grew as hours passed with no trace of her prized possession. She called Mira, her voice tense, watching her closely, looking for any sign of guilt. The princess couldn't see it, but her heart had already hardened toward someone who had shown her only loyalty. In moments of loss, suspicion finds a way to take hold, casting shadows where there may be none. As her frustration peaked, the princess turned to Mira with an intense gaze. "Mira," she demanded, "you were here this morning. Where's my jewel?" Mira's face fell, her expression a mixture of shock and hurt. "Your Highness," she replied, voice trembling. "I would never," but before she could finish, the princess cut her off, dismissing her words. Mira's eyes held only hurt and innocence, but the princess, blinded by frustration, didn't notice. The feeling of betrayal makes us quick to judge, and in her heart, the princess had already passed her verdict. Thus began a story where pride overshadowed fairness, leading to consequences far greater than anyone expected. It wasn't long before word spread through the palace. Servants whispered in the hallways, guards exchanged uneasy glances, and the air grew thick with suspicion. Mira, once respected, now faced isolation. Her innocence questioned by everyone, friends distanced themselves. Afraid of being linked to her, the princess felt justified, believing that Mira's skill was obvious. To her, the mystery was solved, but the reality was far from over. Suspicions, when spread without proof, become as destructive as truth. The princess's need for certainty had set in motion a chain of doubt. The palace had become a place of whispers and mistrust. Determined to confirm her belief, the princess ordered a thorough search of Mira's belongings. Servants turned her room upside down, going through her clothes, her personal items, her few cherished possessions, yet nothing was found. No jewel, no hidden stash. No clue pointing to guilt, but the princess's suspicion remained. She convinced herself Mira must have hidden it too well, ignoring the lack of any real proof. She was so focused on feeling right, she disregarded reason when emotions cloud judgment. Even lack of evidence can seem like a minor detail. But this need to be right was about to cost the princess dearly. Despite the accusations, Mira continued her duties with grace. She held her head high, serving the princess and palace with quiet dignity. Though deeply hurt, she hoped the truth would come to light. Other servants began noticing her humility, her continued loyalty. In the face of mistrust, watching Mira's quiet strength, they began to doubt the princess's claim. Could someone so faithful really be a thief? Mira's response was a silent yet powerful reminder. Innocence doesn't need to prove itself in times of unjust accusation. True strength lies in maintaining integrity. Mira's patience spoke louder than words. One day, as the princess sat in her chambers, a strange thing happened. A large bird flew through the open window, a majestic hawk that seemed oddly at ease in the room. It swooped down to the vanity, pecking at something glimmering in the corner, startled. The princess walked over, her heart skipped a beat. There, hidden in a small crack near the window, was her missing jewel. Somehow, it had slipped into the crevice, invisible to all in an instant. She knew she had been wrong all along. Sometimes, fate reveals the truth, but often comes at a cost we don't anticipate. The princess stood frozen, guilt flooding her heart. She had wrongfully accused Mira, her most loyal servant, and her pride had blinded her from the start. She remembered Mira's hurt face, her unwavering loyalty, and her own hasty judgment. The princess felt the sting of regret. Realizing that her need to blame someone had overshadowed her fairness, she knew now that mere words wouldn't make up for what Mira had endured, and an apology was long overdue. Realizing one's mistakes is hard, but taking responsibility is even harder, and the princess was about to take a step she'd never taken before. With a heavy heart, the princess approached Mira. Looking her in the eyes, "Mira," she began softly, "I was wrong. I should never have doubted you. Please forgive me." Mira, though wounded, looked back with kindness. "Your Highness," she said gently, "trust once broken takes time to rebuild." But humility heals. Moved by her forgiveness, the princess promised to be more thoughtful, vowing never to let pride cloud her trust again. Sometimes, forgiveness from those we wrong teaches us the most profound lessons. Mira's strength taught the princess more than she could have imagined. This story of the missing jewel reminds us of a simple truth. Quick judgments often lead to unjust consequences. In our rush to find answers, we sometimes create harm we can't take back. True wisdom lies in patience, in looking beyond appearances, and in holding on to trust when doubt creeps in. Next time you find yourself on the verge of judgment, remember the princess and her jewel. Look deeper and remember, the truth often lies in places we least expect. Thank you for joining this story. If you enjoyed it, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire and enlighten. Until next time! Want to learn simple steps to meditate properly? Let's make it easy for you. Here's what you do. First, grab a mat and lay it on the floor. Now sit on it in Sukhasana, the simple cross-legged yoga pose. If you have an elevated cushion or platform, use it to sit just a little higher with your bottom elevated. But your feet stay grounded on the mat. This helps keep your back straight for a longer time without any strain. And hey, feel free to lean your back gently against the wall for extra support. If sitting on the floor isn't comfortable for you, no worries. Sit on a chair with back support. Just remember to keep your feet on the floor and, if possible, cross your legs gently. Crisscross your fingers, rest your hands near your belly, and find that cozy, natural position. Now, here's a small but important trick. Play some soft meditation audio on your phone or laptop. But remember, you don't need to focus on it actively. Let it be like calming background music. They're just to help you relax. When you meditate, thoughts will come and go. It's natural. Don't try to push them away, and don't get carried away either. Just let them be like clouds passing through the sky. If you find your thoughts are pulling you away, it's okay. Gently shift your attention to the music for a moment, then drift back into your meditation. The idea is to stay in the moment. Don't follow your thoughts. Don't even follow the music. Just be there. In as little as 15 minutes, you'll feel a shift. A sense of calm is washing over you. And if you find this helpful, save this video or share it with someone you care about. Let's spread a little more peace in the world. And of course, don't forget to follow or subscribe for more simple, life-changing tips. See you in the next one. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about two friends who once shared the same dreams until one of them turned those dreams into reality while the other watched his slip away. It's the story of Nick and Liam, a story of ambition and the painful price of waiting too long. Nick wasn't special, no wealth, no fancy connections, but he had grit. Every late night, every grueling setback, he faced it head on. He had a vision to build something meaningful, something that would leave his mark on the world. He knew it would demand everything he had. And he gave it. Nick wasn't just wishing, he was doing. Liam was a dreamer. He had big ideas, plans that would someday change everything. But something never came. He talked about success like it was a distant prize waiting for him. But his days blended together, one maybe tomorrow after another. Deep down, he felt the weight of every day slipping by. But he told himself he'd start soon. As Nick struggled and built, Liam waited and dreamed. Nick faced failure after failure, but he didn't quit. Liam, he was afraid to even start, scared of the risks, terrified of falling short. Every year that passed, Liam lost something he could never get back. Time. Confidence, the chance to make his dreams real. Then, after years of struggle, Nick finally got his break. A major client took notice, saw the spark, the dedication. Nick's life changed in that instant. He'd earned it. His years of sacrifice and action had finally paid off. But for Liam, that moment hit like a storm. Hearing about Nick's success felt like a mirror, forcing him to confront his own choices. As he sat in the quiet of his empty apartment, he couldn't escape the truth. He wasn't just envious, he was crushed, haunted by every opportunity he's let pass. He knew in his heart that Nick had achieved what he'd only talked about, and the knowledge was like a weight he couldn't lift. That night, as Liam flipped through his old notebooks covered in dust, he felt the cold reality of what he'd done, or rather, what he hadn't done. Every empty page, every unfinished idea was a reminder of the life he's wasted dreaming instead of doing. His heart was heavy, weighed down by regret. He knew he couldn't reclaim those years that were gone, and so was the confidence he once had. In that moment, Liam realized something. He could stay in the cycle of regret and what-ifs, or he could choose to fight back, to reclaim whatever time he had left. With trembling hands and a racing heart, he opened his laptop, determined to finally chase what he'd always wanted. It was just a start, but for the first time, he felt a spark, the thrill of taking control. Liam knew it wouldn't be easy. He couldn't erase the past, but he could rewrite his future. He threw himself into his work, refusing to let regret be the end of his story. Every hurdle he faced now was a reminder of why he couldn't waste another second. It wasn't too late. He could still make it happen. The story of Nick and Liam isn't just a story of success or failure. It's a lesson for anyone holding on to someday. Life doesn't wait. Your dreams don't wait. Every day you put off action is a day closer to the life you'll never have. So stop waiting for the right time. Stop waiting for the fear to go away. You don't have forever. Start now. If you keep waiting, you'll wake up one day and realize your dreams are nothing more than memories of what could have been. Stop waiting. Make today count. Have you ever had a dream that everyone else thought was impossible? A goal so big, so far away, that people laugh just hearing about it? Today, let me tell you the story of a king who set his heart on something extraordinary, a distant mountain, hidden in the clouds, and his unwavering journey to reach it. The king was a man with a restless heart. Unlike most of his subjects, he dreamed of something beyond his kingdom. Every day, he would climb the highest tower in his palace and gaze at a distant mountain on the horizon. Its peak, hidden in clouds, had captivated him since he was a young prince. It wasn't just a mountain to him, it was his dream. He believed there was something incredible waiting for him there, something worth leaving his royal comforts behind for. One evening, the king gathered his ministers and advisors and shared his dream. But instead of encouragement, he was met with disbelief. Why waste your time chasing a faraway mountain? They scoffed. It's better to stay here, rule the kingdom, and live a comfortable life. They thought he was foolish, a king lost in his daydreams. But the king couldn't ignore the call of the mountain. His heart was set on it, and no amount of laughter or doubt could change his mind. The king knew this journey wouldn't be easy. He had little knowledge of what lay ahead, and many doubted his strength, but he had a determined heart. Over the next few days, he gathered the bare essentials: food, water, and a simple walking stick. At dawn one morning, he left his palace and his kingdom behind. The king was finally following his dream, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. He was stepping out toward the unknown. At first, every step felt like an adventure, but as days turned into weeks, the journey grew harder. The king faced hunger, harsh weather, and exhaustion. There were moments